Hey everyone, welcome to the Redmen TV, and it is the Liverpool Transfer Podcast. Yes, we're bringing the Transfer Podcast back through the January transfer window. It went all through the summer. I'll be honest, not loads happened. We're bringing it back each and every Friday during the January transfer window, and we'll see if anything happens, good, bad, or indifferent. I'm Steve Hoare, joined once again by John Reid. John joined us for the build-up show for the Head of United. He stuck around. I'm delighted to bring Jamie back into the fold as well. Been too long since we had Jay in. For those who didn't catch us in the summer, how the show works, part one, we'll be talking about potential outgoings. Obviously, the Trent Alexander-Arnold news features heavily in this section. We've got a little bit about Federico Chiesa as well and reported interest from Italy. Second half of the show, potential incomings. We've got Morgan Gibbs-White, we've got Martin Zubimendi, we've got Tyler Dibling, who's been linked as well. And we'll also be asking you guys in the live chat for some names as well that you want us to discuss. As long as they're credible links, don't just randomly throw names in that no substance to it, because we basically will have nothing to react to. Gents, welcome. Trent Alexander-Arnold, Jamie. We could sit here for 7 hours and discuss this whole situation. The crux of it is, he's out of contract in the summer. Real Madrid want him. Liverpool want him to stay. Real Madrid have made approaches or offers to take him in January, and Liverpool are saying he's not for sale in January. It feels like, mate, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, whatever's going to happen with this is going to happen in the summer. Whether he stays or goes, do you believe Liverpool that they're not going to sell him this window? Because usually when they put something out there this hard and fast, they tend to stick to it.
I don't expect him to go. I think, although Sloth's maybe left the door slightly ajar in his press conference, because he had the opportunity to, I can't remember the exact question, but he had the opportunity to say he is not going in January, and he just said he will be in the team against Manchester United. So maybe that's just a policy of, I'm not talking about it one way or another. So I would be very, very, very surprised if he was to go in January. But I don't know, strange. The only way, there's been an almost unbelievable amount of heads falling off over this, and I think generally people have got the idea of whatever camp they're in, and if they think he's going to go, then what's been going on has just been a confirmation of, oh, he's greedy, he's betrayed his childhood, all of this sort of, I'm not really along those lines. For now, I could see, obviously, it's an attractive offer for anyone. If it were me, I'm a different I don't know. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm no athlete, as you may be able to tell. So I don't know.
You look like a bit like a darts player in that shirt.
Yes. Well, that's the lifestyle. That's the lifestyle that I want. And I'd say I think I've been held back as well, because I did have a darts board in my bedroom at one point, but I didn't have one of them safety things around the back, so my mum had to go at me for getting holes in the wall. If it weren't for that, it could be me tonight instead of Littler, But anyway, Trent Alexander-Arnold, I'll pass it back to you.
It wasn't meant to be. I suppose, John, the interesting one is, it's hard to think of a value that is worth losing him for. Like, for example, if he went to Richard Hughes tomorrow, and we don't know, again, hypothetical, and said, Rich, I'm going to Real Madrid in the summer. Like, that's happening. Sorry, I appreciate I'm going no matter what. Richard Hughes then has to think, well, what's the value of keeping Trent for the next 5-6 months compared to the money you're going to get for him, rather than lose him for nothing? It's hard to put a figure on what that is, because if they offer you £20 million, you'd rather have Trent available, because you're more likely to win games when he's available. If it gets up to like £50 million, you've probably got a decision to make, but Real Madrid aren't offering that. So it feels like there isn't a realistic value that you're going to lose him for anyway this month. It feels like, I understand heads are falling off, it's January, the Madrid pylon's happening, but actually nothing's changed really, because Liverpool aren't going to let him go either way.
No, I don't think much has. I mean, I think there's almost just two components to the whole story, isn't he, in the sense of like the willy won't, and I feel possibly maybe slightly unfairly on him, the way it's been built up around him, because he's a local player, whereas like Salah and Verge haven't really said much, and they're in a similar boat, and all right, maybe there's slightly more reassuring noises coming out like from the press around them, but then the other side of it's the Madrid side of it, and it's the classic, isn't it? Marca, who mysteriously are very related to Madrid, are saying it's all done and agreed, and there's all this sort of charm offensive, and they should just let him go, and that's been Madrid's MO for a long time, I think, in terms of like they don't pay big money for players. I think I agree with you in the sense that, like, when I first read the story and sort of seen the figures that were being quoted, I thought, well, no, like, you know, I wouldn't give you like his left toe for that type of money, like, you know. But it's what they do, isn't it? They don't like putting out big transfer fees on players. They try and get them on frees and sign them up to big deals and stuff. And really, for me, like, nothing's changed in the sense of, like, if he's going to go, he's going to go. If he, you know, and we don't know either way as fans, if you like, in terms of he's been very public about the fact that he's not going to let it play out in public. Certainly on the pitch, I don't think you've noticed any, you know, drop off in him, despite what maybe the odd people, you know, in the ground might think who are on that side of the pitch. But I don't know. It's to be honest, in some senses, I'd almost the club's response, I think, has been quite good. Liverpool's, in terms of, like, sort of not engaging too much with it and talking it down, and also saying that he won't be sold. But I'd almost like them, for me, like, to go a little bit further, even if he does go in the summer, just because I'm so fed up with the Madrid sort of tactic of, like, how they put all stuff in the press, and that's how we end up getting players, and that, you know, just sort of the churn in the rumour mill, where, like, you'd have loads of people commenting on videos, you Madrid fans going, he's already coming to us, kind of thing.
It's one of them, John, innit, where, like, it works though. Like, that's why they do it, because it continues to work. Like, they're good at it, and this is the problem, Jay. To go back to the earlier question, I'm encouraged the fact that Liverpool have said he's not for sale this month, because correct me if I'm wrong, but usually when Liverpool puts, like, a hard and fast line out there, they tend not to backtrack on it. Like, he is not going. Philip Coutinho, he is not. I promise you, he's not leaving in this window. We can't sell him, and he goes in the next window. Or, I promise you, we're not in for X player, not in for him, kind of thing. It feels like that they've gone this hard and fast with it. They not only are they, obviously, I think the official line has been, we're focused on winning the Premier League, but also I do think Liverpool do feel a sense of we're not getting pressured into anything. With £20 million in the bank is fantastic, but having Trent Alexander-Arnold available for the next 19 Premier League games and however many Champions League games is worth more to us than 20 million quid.
Yeah, I think where I'm taking my line on it from is some of the stuff. I know you can't necessarily trust what the club is saying, because there's an element of PR and management about it, but it was Andy Hunter, who's the Guardian's, like, Northwest correspondent. He put a thing out saying, like, they don't expect him to go. Talks as far as they're concerned have been encouraged. I don't know if he said encouraging, but you'd think if they had a meeting with his agents or him or whatever and gone, right, for, you know, it's 250,000 a week, and he said, right, I want $1 million a week, or something ridiculous, where they were just miles away, then maybe would you think, well, there's no way. We get the sense that there's no way you're going to sign. And then if Madrid came up with a 50 million, say, maybe you'd consider it. But it doesn't sound like any of those things have happened. It doesn't sound like, unless that has happened and they're just lying through their teeth, and, you know, unless they know, I mean, then in which case, if they do know that he's definitely going, they've made the decision, okay, we'll just keep him, and he's gone for free, and we'd rather have him in the team to win the league, but, you know,
which is the right decision.
Yeah.
It really is.
And we're low on defenders anyway at the moment, and, you know, all of that. I think Slot also said in his press conference about, will it be unsettling, and he said it's normal for players who play for Liverpool to have interest from other. This is a whole new level of it. But, you know, we had Salah the other year, bids from Saudi, similar situation, line in the sand. Mo Salah is not going in this window. That was it.
No one believed him.
Yeah,
they told the truth,
and that was it. And look where he is now. So, you know, I don't think necessarily, unless they know he's going, and this is all just a face-saving exercise until the point when they release the information that he is going. But we can't say that for sure for now. No,
like I say, I can't think of a value that Real Madrid would be willing to pay that's worth Liverpool letting him go. Now you'd be wanting like 50 million quid. He's come to I'm going, get 50 million quid now and buy his replacement. That's just, you know, that isn't. It's just they're not. Real Madrid aren't going to do that. If you might as well wait. It's an interesting one, John. The last one is the official line from all the Liverpool beat journalists is, and actually more some of the other ones as well. Like I've seen Fabrizio Romano writing this one is like, yeah, Real Madrid think they might get him, but Liverpool haven't given up hope. He hasn't told Liverpool he wants to leave, and negotiations are still continuing. Like, it feels like at this moment in time, and maybe it's not, maybe it is, maybe it's not completely sure Trent's made his mind up yet. Because if he had, I think everyone that would be out there. You know what I mean? Either it'd be common knowledge he is going to Madrid. It wouldn't be Madrid think he's coming. Madrid are getting confident. Liverpool are still in talks. You think if he had definitely 100% made his mind up either way, that would probably be out in the world by now.
Yeah, I mean, he's never been. I think the only thing, as I said before, that I think he's been sort of public about was, I can't remember who it was, but he did an interview with Sky, didn't he, before the season started, after Jurgen went, and he sort of said, it's different, and he basically was just sort of vocal about the fact that he wanted to see what it was going to be like, kind of thing. But he didn't come down sort of either way and saying that means I want to leave. It's a strange thing, isn't it? Because I think beyond what, again, sort of the whole thing around the ownership and stuff of the club and what fans think and all that, which is all valid, and everyone's entitled to their opinion, there is, I guess, sort of a wider sort of cultural thing behind this, in terms of the club have got to be firm, in terms of they've just lost the very public figurehead who carried a lot of sway, not just in terms of what he did on the pitch, but in terms of like publicly PR and all the rest of it. It's a new set of people in new positions in terms of Richard Hughes and stuff. They've got to be able to sort of put forward the idea that we're still just as strong as when Jurgen Klopp was here, and what have we been for the last 7 or 8 years. We're not going to be bullied into selling people and held to ransom by players over contracts and stuff. This structure has got us to where we are, and this persists. But that's a whole different thing. And there's a on the pitch. I think he's probably. I don't want again try and get into his head, but like you've got to think about sort of what the concerns are about what they're doing on the pitch. There's no guarantees Madrid will do anything going forward for the next couple of years. They've famously been a team, I think, in sort of the modern era, who've had spells of being really good and doing well, but then also had a couple of years in between where they've not really done much, and they have got a really obviously stellar team in terms of the lineup and stuff, but they're struggling at the minute because they haven't got a right back. There's loads of question marks around the manager in terms of Ancelotti. Then who's the next Madrid manager? Is it Alonso? Does he think that's going to work? Kind of thing. All questions I think Trent would have had about Liverpool going into this season. You can argue he would have about going to Madrid either mid-season or next season. And in terms of how Liverpool are playing at the minute, why would you want to leave
now? That's my point on this. If he goes to Madrid in January, I'd be shocked. If he goes in the summer, I'll be honest, I'm half expecting that now. If I had to put my house on it, for example, he one way or the other, I'd say he's probably going to go for Real Madrid for free in the summer, Jay. But like right now, again, let's not try and guess too much inside of a footballer's head. But why not stay? You go for if you want to go, Sam, go in the summer. If you're going to Real Madrid, you're going there. If you go now, you're hoping I win the league and I win the Champions League. Liverpool are showing that they're very much in that conversation as well. Like we're clear at the top of their league. They're second in their league, currently behind Atletico. Liverpool are qualified. Liverpool have been the best team in the Champions League. Real Madrid are still dossing around, trying to scrape into the top 24. Like, I get it long term if he wants to go. That's his prerogative. I wouldn't like it, but I'd accept it. But right now, I don't see why Trent would want to go in January anyway. What's there for him now to go? Probably gets less of a signing on fee. Leaves Liverpool without getting that second Champions League or Premier League medal that he probably wants. I don't see the logic for him leaving in January anyway.
No, the only thing, if you agree, I mean, we've seen it, Alonso, I think that was agreed partway through the season or whatever when he went. Ronaldo, Ferguson did the we wouldn't sell them a virus thing, and that was basically agreed for a whole, I think he scored about 40 odd goals that season for Man United, so there's no, the idea of an impending move unsettling a player, there isn't really too much evidence for it. The only reason I think would be if they got word, I don't know, like our fans turning on basically in the stadium. If it somehow came out, say next week, then you think would that destabilise possibly home games if he's getting booed? I don't know if that would even happen or what. Like, I don't think people would take too kindly for it. But I agree with you in terms of where Madrid are. If you look like the whole Bellingham pursuit a few years ago, you could see why would he have come to us then, because we were really poor that season. Madrid, you think is Klopp losing his spell, is his powers waning or whatever. Madrid are the biggest club in the world, and they probably are. You could see why would Bellingham have chosen Liverpool over Madrid at that particular point, but now, like you were saying, like I mean, look, maybe they'll just get Alonso in, and Alonso will be great. But they've had these periods where they had Lopetegui in for a bit, that went wrong. Benitez, I mean, that's going back probably 10 years, but they had to get Zidane back several times because people haven't worked, and so it's not to say. I think what part of the reason for why, if I were in his shoes, I would maybe want to go, especially as he's going on about I want to win the Ballon d'Or and all that. Generally, they win the Champions League once every other year. Generally, it's either them or Barcelona who's going to win the league. So he's going to win, you'd think, a shed load of trophies. But there have been periods in certainly the last 20 years where Madrid have had a 3 or 4 year spell where they haven't been very good. So that should be part of his thinking of, I don't want to come in one of those periods.
No, absolutely, and we'll keep an eye on it. But as it stands, the latest on Trent, Liverpool, he's not for sale, and Madrid and Liverpool continue to try and get him to agree something, and as and when that is, I'm sure, well, I know for a fact we'll react to it as soon as we can on this show, or indeed any others, as when we know more. Only other potential outgoing, and this is kind of, I don't know, tenuous is the right word, John, but it's been reported in certain places in Italy that Federico Chiesa could leave Liverpool this window. Now, according to reports, Fiorentina wanted him. There was talk that maybe he'll go to Napoli on loan as well. Again, it appears like Liverpool have decided he's not going out on loan, he's going to stay. I suppose the only way this would have made sense is if he just hates it here. All this stuff that's been in the media, if he's not fit and he's been ill, if his head's just gone and he hated it, then that could make sense. But it looks like we can kind of knock that one on the head for now. It's the only concern with Chiesa is he hasn't been in squads, he hasn't been deemed fit enough to play. When he has played, the manager then had to give him extra rest. You've got to give him basically another pre-season after the injury. Do you think there's any smoke with or any fire with this smoke? Because listen, it wouldn't be the first time a team has cut their losses. Liverpool had Robbie Keane and got rid of Robbie Keane relatively quickly because they thought this just isn't working. Do you think there's anything in this Chiesa to back to Italy stuff this month?
I think the loan side of it potentially, just in terms of getting them fit and getting minutes and stuff. I'm very sceptical about I've seen some of the figures banded around for him in terms of it being a loan with a view to buy kind of thing. I don't think that's happening. And that makes me sort of sceptical about the loan side of it as well. But I just think they've spent so long clearly getting the lad fit and sort of ingratiating them, if you like, in terms of what we do. To suddenly send them away for 6 months and be come back in 6 months' time once you've played, I don't know, 20 matches, whatever. Just seems silly because you're trying to integrate him again into kind
well,
of.
It feels mad the fact that he's come from Italy and he's struggling with the intensity of the Premier League to then send them back to Italy. You're half better just training them yourself. You know what I mean? That's what I don't understand. If he's going to go and they sold him because he hates it here and the manager said, this just isn't going to work, we don't think your body's ever going to do it, that makes more sense than a loan back to Italy for a few months, because what's he going to get out of that?
Exactly. And I was going to say, to pick you up on the second point about whether he's happy or unhappy, everything you see him, he looks genuinely thrilled to be here. Even some of these videos and stuff that the club's putting out, where they're all sort of milling around at the AXA and having coffee and stuff and that. He's always in them and he seems really thrilled, and he clearly, I don't know if I describe him as a popular member of the squad, but he clearly gets on with everybody. They all have a laugh and a joke with him and stuff, and you've seen him on some of the things when they were abroad and things like that. But he's the fact. Some people, I think, would probably treat silence as a bad thing, but the fact that you've heard nothing from him, there's been nothing that he's come out and said publicly. You haven't heard a peep out of any of his agents or anything like that, where he's just made noises about wanting to go away or whatever. You've heard nothing about how his wife doesn't like living wherever because of the weather. None of that's come out. All the sorts of usual cliches that are attached to players. You think, oh, this isn't working out. It's all just, none of that's happened. He's been about, he's been unfortunate to have a few knocks and a few injuries. Going back to when we got him in the summer, by all accounts, he's a really, really talented player. A lot of people quite rightly lauded the club for getting him for what we got him for in terms of the fee. And, if you work on him and you can unlock any of that potential, obviously that would pay dividends. And that again, I suppose, to go full circle, for me, goes back into the fee. If Liverpool were going to flip him, and we were just before we started, we were talking about Minamino, they wouldn't flip him for sort of what they paid for him. They'd flip him for 3 or 4 times more, So it's one of those stories to me that I think it's just, he's wasn't looking to generate headlines. You have a little, who's not playing? Liverpool are a big club, but I'll get clicks, kind of thing.
I suppose, well, Jay, what January will bring is the option for him to get some games, because I guess he needs game time to get fit, but Liverpool are trying to win a Premier League and a Champions League, and by the way, they've got the best player in the world playing in the same position as him.
Yeah.
Accrington is an option. If Liverpool do get through Accrington, which I hope they do, there's a potentially another FA Cup tie. Depends what Arne Slot does in the League Cup stuff, how serious he wants to go with those. Does he give Salah a bit of a break in them? The Champions League at the end of the month.
Yeah.
You know, Liverpool are through. Now, how high Arne Slot wants to finish in that top 8 remains to be seen. But it feels like if it's about getting them fit and ready, there's enough game time there where the stakes perhaps aren't as high where you can... I don't know if take a risk's the right word, but you don't have to worry too much. If you get beat, it's not the end of the world, or if he doesn't quite perform, where we just haven't got that luxury in the Premier League. So the idea of this loan that's being reported in Italy, like I say, it's hard to get your head around that. Yeah,
I agree. I've never really... because they've been... Even as far back, I remember it was the start of October, I think I started seeing rumours about a loan, and I'm thinking, same as you guys, like, why would you invest all this time in trying to build him back up to be someone who's capable of being in the matchday squad, and then go, okay, you can go back to Italy. If intensity is the factor, he's not going to find it back. The difference between those two leagues, whatever it is, again, not being an athlete, I can't tell you from experience, but yeah, I just don't really get it. And in terms of the games, you know, he's a Euros winner, so we don't have to worry about... It's not like you're blooding an 18-year-old where you think, is he going to freeze on the big stage? Has he got the bottle for it? Is, you know, he's played for Juventus and he's won the Euros for Italy. We know he's potentially a big game player on his day. If it's all about getting in match fitness, whatever it is, you've got the Accrington game. I think that two-legged Spurs game could be 15 all on aggregate. Who knows? You never know what's going to happen there. He could get 20 minutes at the end of both of those games. We don't know. Is Salah going to play in those? You know, I don't know. We might be 4-0 up on the first leg. Like, you know, God knows what's going to happen in those games. So he's definitely got opportunities to play. I think that's been the main frustrating thing, is generally with injuries and things like that, progress tends to only go in one way, unless they have a notable setback, like Diaz had a notable setback on his knee thing. He's getting closer. So that's happened with him. He's on the bench and you go, oh, nice, Chiesa's back, and then it's, oh yeah, he's out for 2 weeks. And you go, hang on, what? Well, he was on the bench the other day, and he had that little cameo in the League Cup. I can't even remember what game it was. Southampton, that was it. And you're like, oh, nice, Chiesa's back, looked a bit rusty, and then he starts putting it, you know, doing a few nice little good bits of skill and having some shots. You're like, here we go, we could have a player. Oh yeah, he's ill. And it's, you know, I don't know. It's just, it has been very frustrating, the whole thing, but I don't see why, unless, again, like with the Trent thing, someone's had a word behind the scenes and gone, oh, by the way, Federico absolutely hates it here. He's just a very good actor. On all those videos, he actually, because I'm sure we've all done it. We've gone to jobs and gone, oh, this isn't for me, this. And you know what I mean? Yeah,
actually, I would guess, Jay, if they're going to do anything with him again, summer, if you decide after a year, listen, it hasn't worked out, what's the point of doing it now? Unless, the way you do it is if you're signing someone else and you
do it at a loss. When, like you said about Minamino, even, I mean, the weird one was that was it Ben Davis, his name, who we signed from Preston?
Got money for him.
Exactly. We managed to somehow make a profit, even though we didn't play a single minute. Minamino, we made a profit. Even what they tend to be able to do, Carvalho barely played. He get a big profit on him. You know, if we let him go now, we're not making a profit on him. Even if he gets 5 to 10 games at the end of the season and then goes, you could probably say, well, we'll sell you back for 15 million or 12, even if you make a tiny profit. They're not in the business of letting him go for half of what they paid for him, even though that's not a big fee in the first place comparatively.
Absolutely, I think you're right. That is pretty much it in terms of our going so far. Hopefully we don't get too much. Hopefully this section in the future podcast, we can even knock it on the head. Hopefully there's not too much happening. I don't think anyone is desperate to see anyone leave Liverpool during this month. We're going to go to a quick break in a moment, after which we are going to be speaking about incomings. On the agenda, I've got Morgan Gibbs-White, Martin Zubimendi and Tyler Dibling. If there are any other players that you'd like us to discuss, if you've seen links to any others, please do let us know in the YouTube chat, and if we've got time time. We'll try and get to as many of those as we can. Make them credible, make sure they are actual links, not just players you'd like us to sign, because otherwise, there's not really much to discuss other than he's a good player, he's not a good player. But if you do want to get involved, we will do that. We'll be back after this quick break with part 2, where we start off discussing Morgan Gibbs-White. See you in a sec.
Hello everybody, I just wanted to tell you what you could win if you were in our Club Legend prize draw for January. This is a biggie. We're starting the new year off with a bang. It's this, a signed Liverpool shirt signed by Ian Callaghan, proper Liverpool royalty, the record appearance maker for the Reds. 857 appearances he made. Not all in this shirt, you'll be glad to know, but if you want to get yourself a chance of winning this, head to redmenplus.com, sign up as a Club Legend or upgrade your existing subscription and you might just be the lucky winner.
Yeah, welcome back. Get yourselves involved in that one. What a prize that is to give to one of our legends at the end of January, a shirt signed by Ian Callaghan. No one will ever play as many games, I don't think, for Liverpool as Ian Callaghan, but you never know. Trent Alexander-Arnold, if he stays, might get close. Who knows? But as it stands, that he is by far Liverpool's record appearance maker. That is some prize we're going to be giving away at the end of the month. Let's talk incomings then first, guys. First story I'm going to bring to everyone's attention comes from the guys at Football Insider, Wayne Versey's site, who says exclusive Liverpool have concrete interest in Nottingham Forest star Morgan Gibbs-White. The recruitment team at Anfield have made the attacking midfielder a top target ahead of the January and summer transfer windows. Liverpool are keen to sign a playmaker who can link the play and provide a goals impetus from an advanced midfield position. My guess would be, if this, again, let's talk about the player first, actually, John. Very good player. The age profile suggests he is probably someone Liverpool would sign in terms of his age. Liverpool have got enough of a sample size now on Morgan Gibbs-White. He's actually played well against us a couple of times as well. It's worth mentioning that. January is not going to happen. I'd be shocked if that was. But is he a player that maybe going forwards in the future you could see signing for Liverpool?
Yeah, he's definitely in that bracket, isn't he? I think he's really a player who's sort of been around for a long time. Like he's been hyped for a long time, obviously, but like in terms of, I think we've all sort of looked at him, like us, Spurs, all the sorts of clubs in that ilk have sort of looked at him over time and gone, yeah, like I just want to see him do a bit more. Like you want a bigger sample size of what he's been able to do, but in terms of his skills on the ball, I think he's done really well for that Forest team in terms of knitting it together. He's been the player, I think, for the longest time, who they've been sort of loath to sell. When they lost Johnson, obviously, to Spurs, and then a few people being a bit like, oh, they're going to lose the goals, and it was like, well, actually, it's sort of Gibbs-White who sets it all up, and he's just a good finisher. And you've sort of seen that replicated, I guess, this season with Chris Wood. But no, if there's one area of the pitch maybe we were a bit light, I suppose you would maybe highlight, I guess, that sort of attacking midfield position. We've gone sort of nominally back towards playing a bit of a 10 occasionally. He's put Szoboszlai in that role a lot. Even if you draw it on on the pitch as sort of one and two in front, it becomes more of a one goes a bit further forward. And he seems the manager sort of, I don't want to say not keen, but he's done that sort of less with Jones. He's done that with less with some of the other players. We had that a little bit under Klopp where he maybe put McAllister there, but that doesn't seem to have happened. He's played deeper under this manager. So it seems like he's one of the few choices apart from maybe Harvey Elliott to sort of play in that position. So I can certainly like join the dots if you like and see where he fits in the squad and the role he would have. Minutes wise and stuff, and as you say, in terms of like, he, as far as I'm aware, he's not had any bad injuries. He's played a lot of Premier League games. He fits all the sort of the big check boxes I think Liverpool would have. My only concern with him, I think, well, maybe twofold, would be sort of, I would worry slightly about the fee. I don't know what his contract situation is if it's in the article, but
2027, he's under contract for a while.
2 years, but whether you can get him out of Forest for a decent fee in terms of the ownership. But although, by all accounts, Forest, that the model they're trying to follow is sort of flipping players for sort of good money, sort of copying Dortmund and Brighton and the like. And the second concern I would just have, which in the fullness of time might work its way out, is just sort of what that would mean for sort of Harvey Elliott in sort of the short to medium term in terms of getting games. I
suppose as well, Jay, again, I think January isn't on the cards. You're Nottingham Forest, they're trying to get in the Champions League, and as it stands, they've got every chance. Like, given the fall off that Manchester City have had, and we'll see how they recover. Manchester United are nowhere near it. It feels like there is a place in the top 4 for somebody. Like I say, you would still suggest Man City are favourites for that. You'd say Liverpool and Arsenal are going to be in the top 2, probably 1 and 2. Chelsea are there or thereabouts, but they've had a little drop off. There's a Champions League place to be won for someone. Listen, we saw Aston Villa do it, and they're back in the mix. Newcastle around there. There's nothing to stop Nottingham Forest, so I doubt they'd do it this month. But going forward towards the summer, like John says, if he's under contract for another 2 years, this is the age to get your move, 24, 25.
Yeah.
He's just been capped for England. Listen, the fee would be a lot. I think they paid 25 plus like 17 million in add-ons, and he's probably close to getting most of those, given how well he's done. If Liverpool signed him in the summer, it would have to be probably the I don't even know what the fee would be, but you're probably talking upwards of like what he paid for the likes of Virgil van Dijk and Darwin Núñez. You'd imagine Forest would be well within the rights to ask for that kind of fee for a young international player in the peak of his career, who they probably don't want to lose. Yeah,
I think that was first and foremost the thing where I'd have an issue. Like the England cap, he'll have less than 5. Only he'll have played in some of these. I can't even remember the name of the frigging competitions. Nations League. I was going to say Europa League, but yeah, that's how much attention I pay to that. I did watch one of the games on a flight.
He's played twice for them.
He's played twice. There you go. But that seems to add another 10-20%. And the one thing, even when all you were talking about him, then I remember when he was signed from Wolves. It seemed one of them weird sort of sideways moves because they were about the same point in the table at the time. Maybe Wolves have been even a bit better when I think Jota had gone, but they still had that core of Neto of decent players. We think, Wolves are actually a decent side here. I just remember the fee, thinking, it could end up at over 40 million or 45 million or something. You think, God, that's a lot. I know you've got to pay a lot for talented young players. So Nottingham Forest, like you say, are, what are they going to want for them? 70 million, 80 million? And you get into real, Harrods prices. You know what I mean? We're getting real top of the shop prices where I think if FSG were going to sanction that sort of fee, I don't know. It'd have to be someone like an Alisson or a Van Dijk where they had, from what their models had said or whatever, he's going to be one of the best in the world, rather than he's a talented, young-ish, not young, but like 24, 25. He's going to come into his peak. He could do a really good job for us. Like a Mane was that. I don't think they thought Mane was necessarily going to become one of the best forwards in the world. They're not going to pay 80 million for someone unless they think he's going to be one of the top 10 midfielders in the world. I also think if they're going to spend 80 million pounds, Jay, I'm not sure that's the position he'll do it on. No. Like they have, I see Jones point, but like Szoboszlai, Jones, Elliott, McAllister. Yeah. They've already got 4 starting level, all international level footballers. Yeah, it would be, if they're going to spend money in midfield, maybe something around the Gravenberch Endo situation where you try and get something. Yeah. I like Gibbs-White. I think he's a really good player. I just don't know if that's the position where you go big on your budget, because you're probably spending most of your budget on that. Unless, like you said, they'd have to think he's like just going to be an absolute. There's something in the data or what they've seen that suggests like he's going to be like an absolute superstar. So moving on away from him, I'll stick with you, Jay. The Tyler Dibling link is interesting. He's 18 years old, actually. So I won't bring this one up on screen. It's from the Daily Mail and it's paywalled and all that. But the general sense behind this one, Jay, was Newcastle really want him, or really interested in both him and James McAtee from Manchester City. So Newcastle in the market for a young English player. It looks like, again, going down that route of buying younger players, it's worked for them so far. However, the report says, there is interest from Liverpool, who would likely be at the front of the queue if their interest accelerates. So basically, I don't know if that suggests the player would rather go to Liverpool or Newcastle. It doesn't. With Southampton are more likely to do business. Liverpool pay the money. I don't know what it means, but what I would say about him is, aged 18, you can see when you watch glimpses of Tyler Dibling, there's definitely something there, and it wouldn't be the first time Liverpool have signed a young player thinking we can take him to the next step. Yeah, I think the only thing from his point of view would be Klopp definitely showed more of a willingness to play the younger players. Partly, I mean, that the whole thing of us winning the League Cup last year was the famous injury list, which people keep posting now as a rebuttal to Arsenal fans who seem to think they're the only club who've ever had injuries. We've got rid of the likes of Bobby Clark and people like that, and Fabio Carvalho. Whether he's a cut above them or not remains to be seen. We've got Nyoni there as Nguma, or there's young players coming through already. What sort of minutes is he going to be getting? He does look a talented player. He's obviously, I think anyone who has the socks down that low at 18, to me, we need more like Martin Keown still in the game, I think, because if I was a defender, I think I'm going right through you, mate. 18-year-old with his socks rolled down. Who do you think you are? No, he's obviously got a bit of confidence about him.
He's just watched Jack Grealish a few times.
Yeah,
I thought I'll have a bit of that.
He's done well against us when they've played against us. I don't know. It's very early to say, isn't it? I just think of Todd Cantwell. I remember when he played for Norwich, there was a lot of talk like he's the next big thing, and he's having a good career. He's played for Rangers. I think he's just been released by Rangers. Anyway, whatever.
He's been good, but he hasn't been.
He's going to have a good career, but it doesn't look like he's going to be a Liverpool. Cantwell was never going to turn into a Liverpool level player. Will Dibling? I don't know. I'm just not sure at the moment. If I was his agent, obviously coming to Liverpool would be great. Somewhere like in Newcastle, like you could see. They might have PSR issues. They might have to sell Isak one day, or Guimaraes or whatever. There might be a vacancy in that midfield come up. They might have a little bit of an injection of cash if he is going to be the next big thing in English midfield or whatever. I could see that working there. But same thing with Gibbs-White. But he's just a peg or two down.
I suppose the age thing's the difference, though, isn't it?
Well, yeah.
He is 18, and you might get away with thinking, listen, look what Harvey Elliott's done. Harvey Elliott's played over, Curtis Jones. Liverpool will play young players. Now, the position's different because he can play midfield, he plays right wing, which, again, isn't the easiest place to get into. And MK makes a good point in the chat. Like, Dibling would only make sense if Edwards and Co think he's much better than Ben Doak and the other Liverpool youngsters. They would have to think, and I like him, I think he's a good player. The first time I watched him, I was on TV and he scores, and I was like, you can tell he's a good player. Like Jay said, he did well against us. They would have to think to buy him and pay a fee for him, because Southampton would now be well within the rights to suggest to get a pretty good fee for him. He's got to be significantly better than all lads. Like Ben Doak's having a good year now at Middlesbrough. Maybe it's a different style of player, but that is a good point. He would have to be, again, you'd have to look at your academy and all the lads you've got out on loan and say, for us to pay X amount for him, he's got to be a significant step above all these other lads who we've got out or in and around the club.
Yeah, I mean, it's not something, as you say, that the club's not done before in terms of, you mentioned
there's loads of them, mate. There's 100 of these. There's loads of players where Liverpool have signed as teenagers and took a gamble on. Harvey Elliott is the obvious one.
He's the big one where you look at it and it's worked. And I think, there can be a changing of the guard, if you like, in terms of, there's a lot of lads obviously sort of around the club who moved on in the summer and things like that. I think the thing for me with it is just whether, sort of, as you say, whether it's there, and I don't know enough. He's a player who's sort of been on my radar a bit because, as you say, I've seen him play, I thought he was good, but he sort of had that the Scouts equivalent of the eye test, and that he's been mentioned to me by several uncles and extended members of family who don't do all the statty weird stuff that we do. But
I love that, like the family member who thinks they're the first one to spot a player. When, he's played 20 Premier League games, scored 2 goals. He's like, have you seen this Dibling lad? No one knows about him yet.
I did that with Mamardashvili in the Euro. I was like, he'll be playing for like Dynamo Tbilisi. No one's heard of him. I was like, yeah, he plays for Valencia. All right, never mind.
But if sort of that stuff, if sort of that side of it also stacks up for him, then definitely, because I think, if you look at where he's at in terms of his career and stuff, I mean, we were talking on a show earlier today, I think probably before we started, about like Southampton and where they are, and they're in a bit of dire straits. I think obviously they could do with a cash injection if they go down, but also just in terms of like what his options are. I mean, they almost came up, I think, probably a season too early in terms of having that squad ready for the Premier League. Yeah, and in terms of going down, you've got the same thing the other way. So, you can see how it's a very enticing thing for an 18-year-old or whatever he is to sort of be, bypass going to the Championship, come here, or maybe he ends up going back on loan if we did sign him. But all I think is just in terms of where he is, you know, it's a very sort of congested part of the pitch for us in terms of, like, you know, I know Jayden Danns tends to play a bit more centrally, but he's having an alright season. Obviously, you've already mentioned Doak at Borough. It can be a hard place to cut into, but, you know, if the fee's right, and, you know, just because he's 18 doesn't mean he has to play tomorrow. You know, he's one who you might see in 2 or 3 years' time and kind of thing. And I've got no problem with the club sort of speculating on some of the best youngsters for me. Like, I think, you know, even going back to just the Gibbs-White thing as well, you know, it was a thing Ferguson did for years, that he would pick off the best players from the teams underneath him. You know, we've done it with Andy Robertson getting in from Hull when they got relegated. Wijnaldum went from Newcastle. So I don't think there's any shame in sort of looking at the other teams and going, who's the best lad? And Southampton famously have had loads of great people come through their academy and stuff. So
yeah, we'll keep an eye on that one. I wouldn't be shocked if that's certainly looking at this, especially if they go down Southampton, and you always look at the finances of getting relegated. Is it better for them to keep him? Does he want to stay in the Championship? Does he want to go? Like, there were reports, weren't he, when he went to Chelsea as a young lad, he didn't like being away from home. He's from the South Coast, so there's a lot to keep an eye on. But I like him as a player, and I wouldn't be shocked if something happened here. Like I say, time will tell. Again, Liverpool have got loads of contracts and stuff to sort out as well in the meantime. The last one, Jay, and I'm aware that I've booked in 4 transfer shows through this month. I'm probably thinking that I would be surprised if Liverpool signed anybody. I would at this moment in time. Things can change. You know, you might get a player who you really liked and you thought wasn't available, and before you know it, someone's put a bid in and you have to match them. Luis Diaz, for example. Liverpool didn't need Luis Diaz when they signed him, but Tottenham come in, so Liverpool pushed the button on it. Cody Gakpo, I don't think, although slightly different because Liverpool were having a bit of a poorer season, they didn't exactly need Cody Gakpo, but the rumours started going, he's available, Man United want him, so Liverpool pushed the button. The only thing I could see that with, and it's the next conversation, it is Martin Zubimendi. We sat here countless times in the summer, Jay, talking about this guy, and, you know, will he, won't he, is he fancying it, does he not, whatever. The crux of the matter was, Liverpool seemingly had a deal done. He was there, they were going to pay the release clause, he changed his mind. So let's talk about him again, because Guillaume Balaguer and loads of Spanish reporting, but this one's from Guillaume Balaguer, who I think we can trust on Spanish reporting, says, on Zubimendi, he turned down Liverpool in the summer. He was the star of the moment. He turned down Liverpool and was a star of the moment of the season when he replaced Rodri at half-time for Spain in the Euro final. England exploded with happiness when Rodri went off, but he is perhaps, after Rodri, the best holding midfielder in the world, which is high praise from Guillaume Balaguer. I was told everything was done with Liverpool and he decided personally not to leave. However, 3 months into the season, he is now ready to go. So that's the starting point. Whether he's just regrets turning down Liverpool, whether he regrets staying at Sociedad, whether something else, it now appears 3 months after the whole charade that now he's quite happy to leave Sociedad. My guess is, I don't know this, but this release clause you'd imagine must be active or there or thereabouts. Could you see a world where Liverpool, having missed out on him in the summer, go, you know what, we really liked him then, he's changed his mind, he fancies it now, let's go again, and we can get him in January before a City or somebody else try and beat us to it?
Yeah, I don't think they'd cut their nose off to spite the face. I don't think... The only thing would be, is there any question over his character? You know, in terms of does he fancy it at a massive club or something? But then you think that could just be framed as he's loyal to his boyhood club. We all praised it with Steven Gerrard, you know. But I suppose the difference, unlike a Gerrard, someone like a Gerrard or a Francesco Totti, for instance, they could have gone to Real Madrid, they could have gone to whoever the biggest club in the world is, but they were still, Sociedad, with the greatest respect, are not going to win the league. It would be a minor miracle for them to win the league. They might, Bilbao won the Copa del Rey. They might win a Copa del Rey, who knows, you know, but if he does a Gerrard and stays there for the rest, if that's what he's thought, I just love this club, or what, you know, it's my boyhood club, he's probably going to win 1 trophy max in his whole career, and he's going to have to be happy with that, and he's going to have to forego massive wages. Now, I'm sure he's paid decent amount of money, but if he goes to Liverpool, he's probably going to be on 6 figures. If he becomes the guy in midfield, his next contract, he'd probably be on 180, 200. You know, he's going to be earning mega money if he comes to a club like Liverpool or Manchester City. It's whether they will. I think I'd like them to. I'd like, if there's a release clause there and he's gone, you know what, I've done another 6 months at Sociedad, and I think they're in the top half, but they're quite a low score, and so I think they're a very kind of noisy and like hard work and a lot of graft sort of side, you know, which is fair enough, but you could be playing in front of the cop. But then he didn't know that in the summer. Like, the cop's not changed. You know
it's
what
difficult,
I mean?
though, Jay, because... Sorry to interrupt you there, but it is worth noting he didn't do it in the summer, and now the shit, it's like he's trying to escape. Like, I wonder if there is a question... I don't know. I don't think
they're notably worse than they were last year. It's not like they're in the relegation zone.
Exactly.
Like,
that's my question. It's like, Liverpool won't doubt his ability because he's clearly very talented, but... He didn't want to be here in the first place. He had the option. What has changed significantly where you're not worried about it from a mental point of view? Because Liverpool will do their homework on these players. I suppose that's the big question. Is like, does he really fancy coming to Liverpool, or is he just thinking, you know what, I want to get out of Sociedad now?
Yeah, or you know, you couldn't see the Rodri injury necessarily happening. So in terms of like holding out for City, if City do sign him, that's a big worry, isn't it? If there's a release clause, you know, we've just seen Gillan Balaguer there. They literally brought him on at half time in the Euros final, so City could do that for the rest of this season. It'd be funny actually going on about the climate and the food if he rocks up in Manchester, though, wouldn't it?
Well, to be fair, he might be closer to the Pennines. He's prone to like a mountain, John. I suppose the next one is, and again, Guillaume Balaguer, and I'll go back to it, says, I don't think Liverpool will go back in for him, although Zubimendi is at a different level to Ryan Gravenberch. So therefore, Martin Zubimendi must be the best player in the world. Because that was right. And that's the next question. If you're Zubimendi now, there was one place up for grabs properly in Liverpool's team at the summer. I think everywhere else you were maybe left back, you could argue, but everywhere else everyone was pretty content with what they had. There was a space at number 6. It seemed like the manager decided he wants a different profile than Wataru Endo, I should say. But Gravenberch has nailed it now. Like, so if Zubimendi comes in now to Liverpool, I'm sure he would rotate with Ryan Gravenberch, and he could. But I don't think Arne Slot wants to be taking Ryan Gravenberch out the side, so he's gone from, if he'd have joined, he'd have been first choice, to now he's coming to battle for a place. City are there, and he could go to City and play a lot of games, either for the rest of the season, because there is no Rodri, and even next year. We always know the year after an ACL isn't always great. Rodri won't be Rodri again next year. He'll be good and he'll play, but it'll be a year after, so like there will be games for him. It feels like now, other than the 115 looming charges, Man City might feel like a better option for a player to get a game, which is mad, because we just said that in the summer, go and compete with Rodri or go and compete with Ryan Gravenberch and Endo. There isn't a conversation to be had, but football changes very, very quickly.
No, the world works in mysterious ways. I do think it's one of those things where I think it's a move, sort of the press that's come out of it, to me, it sort of feels like a move that's been generated sort of off the pitch rather than by the player. And I think you're right to say everything you've said about sort of Rodri and City. To me, it feels a bit more like well, you know, Pep's Spanish, he's here for 2 more years kind of thing, you know, and you know, Rodri is sort of Spain's great hope, if you like, in terms of like holding midfield and Xavi and Iniesta and all that, and he's the next lad who's like that and whatever.
I thought he was great, by the way, when I watched him in that game with Mendy. I thought he was excellent. But...
Oh yeah, he's fantastic, and he's the only other link I've seen him with, actually, I don't know if it'll be in that piece, is that he's apparently been linked with Madrid as well, in terms of Modric, which again makes a load of sense, particularly if Alonso's going there. You've got the two sort of great holding midfielders who've played for Spain, Alonso and Guardiola, but it's one of those weird things. Is I think I agree with Jay that sort of my only question would be sort of over his mentality and sort of what's precipitated it. And I think the fact that the club haven't really, as in Liverpool, haven't really come out and said anything, and there's been sort of no murmurings around it kind of thing, would suggest to me that it's a bit more paper talk. And you know, and what you're saying, you know, sort of like you might be going to City or kind of thing, and they're just trying to set it up in the press.
It's worth mentioning though, John, like the reporting house, like the main Manchester City journalist, was like, they're not interested in him. It could just be, this is his agent getting out there. He's half shit. He's half, you know. Sometimes you get buyer's remorse. Maybe what's the word for staying still remorse? Whatever that is. This could be his agent thinking, you know, shit, like he messed that one up. Come and get me, kind of thing. But if City aren't in for him, Barcelona can't afford him. I mean, maybe Man United, who knows, because they're in for everyone. But like, it feels like, and listen, who knows? He could have. And listen, I am not preempting Martin Zubimendi's career. It feels like that he should have come to Liverpool. That was the move. There was a big club who wanted you, and you were going to play every game. if that ship sailed and you're looking around Europe for other positions, there aren't too many of the massive clubs who think, you know, we are crying out for that. Everyone seems to be relatively content with what they've got. If Liverpool get him, and I'd like Liverpool to sign him, hold it up, he's coming in to be in and out the team. He's not going to be nailed on first choice, you would think. So, yeah, from his point of view, it feels like his agents realising, or him, I've missed the boat there. Let's get my name back in the press again.
Yeah, definitely. You know, he's a Rolls Royce of a player, I think, as well, in the sense of, like, as you say, I don't think you'd see him linked with like a Spurs. You know what I mean? And no offense to any Spurs fans listening for any reason. But like, you know, he's the type of player you would be linked with us, linked with the Bayern Munich, linked with the Real Madrid, that kind of thing. You know, it's happened before, and strange things have happened. And you know, I know it was completely different circumstances. But we obviously famously had the second bite of the cherry with Van Dijk, didn't we? Where we went back and got him and stuff. And you know, it's there's no harm in doing it. I think, you know, it was only 7-8 months ago, whatever it was, we were all sat here going, you know, there's no sixes. There's no sixes in world football anymore. We have Fabinho and he's finished. There's none of them, you know what I mean? And then, all right, Gravenberch has been brilliant, and no one's questioning that, but he was like sort of the only shine, like, because everyone was pointing at Rodri, quite rightly, as you said, in terms of like he's the guy, and he was sort of like the only other guy who was anywhere near as good. So, you know, I don't think it would do us any sort of, you know, any sort of ill will or anything bad, or in terms of squad harmony, to have another lad who can play that position and rotate Gravenberch in and out, and Gravenberch can play a bit further forward potentially. What he could do, sorry Jay, if you would like that, you could then, you know, Fulham have been sniffing around Endo and things like you could go, listen, Mataro, thank you for you've been fantastic, we love you, but we've got this opportunity to go and get this lad in. There's your space in your squad. Like, I like Endo, I think he's a good player, but Arne Slot is using him as a centre back in League Cup games, and he comes on for 5 minutes to kick a few people, and there's a lot of value in that, but also, he hasn't really been able to look after Ryan Gravenberch, rotate him. He's really struggled to be able to do that. You know, he's used Tyler Morton examples in the League Cup, which is fine, but again, he hasn't really had a sniff in the league. So from a squad building point of view for Liverpool, again, provided you think his head's right and he's all right, it is actually the area of the squad I think is still where you could go feasibly say, yeah, come in. You will play, Gravenberch, you've been fantastic, we can't run you into the ground, there's games to be played, and Wataro, thank you very much, but go and get yourself some game time. That Marseille bid came in, I'm sure there'd be other offers available for Endo if you wanted to accept them. That's exactly what I would do, that's how I would frame it. I saw someone just in the comment there saying it's Gravenberch's position. Now, there must be a way. You couldn't say to Zubimendi, well, you're his backup, because you know what I mean. Like, and there must be a way of doing it where it's not an either or situation, because I'm not saying the whole thing would fall down. But if Gravenberch got a bad injury at the weekend, what came out of the club in the summer was pretty much briefed that he doesn't fancy Endo. He doesn't think Endo's capable of doing what he wants from a deep line midfielder. And I remember the first Manchester United game of the season, the 3-0. There were bits where Gravenberch was kind of making overlapping runs on the right, and McAllister was staying deep. And I'm thinking he's getting awful far foot, which is great because he's good going forward. There must be surely there'd be a way of playing the pair of them, and then you've got another quality in terms of if you lop Endo off or Morton off or whatever. We've got the same amount of midfielders, but an overall uptick in quality, which I just think that's how a really big club behaves. If we want to have an era now, if we want to have the Slot era where you know, in the top three in European football, I think that's how we should behave, rather than like, oh well, Gravenberch's position, you know, like, yeah, but then if he gets injured, then you're relying on Endo. Arne Slot's got two players for every position at the moment that he likes. I think. Yeah. I think DM's one place he's not completely sure about. So that would be sensible. Like I say, I could see it happening if his head's right, and then all of a sudden it's like Man City want him, and Liverpool go, we want a DM in the summer, and the one we liked is available. Let's go and do it. And the opportunistic sign. That was literally what they said. Was like, oh, Slot has identified the area for improvement is the number 6 position or something like. Now, Gravenberch has helped, yeah, but I just because before Slot came in, and I'll hold my hand up, me and Dan, neither of us saw him as a 6, because the early appearances in the Europa League, he was that good going forward, beating a man, getting shots off, doing little 1-2s, like really graceful.
That's why I didn't think of him as a number 6, because I thought he's so good going forward. Surely there's a way of just pushing him slightly and saying, still do the good stuff that you're doing now, but you've got a little bit more license to get forward.
You can play both of them easy.
That's what I'm saying. It's like, I don't think it's an either or.
Time will tell. I wouldn't be shocked. Completely shocked. I think if they're going to sign anybody, he might be the one. Let's move on. I do apologise, guys. I did say before about naming some players who to talk about, and I was going to do it in this section of the show, but as can happen on the transfer shows, we've got some breaking news, so we're going to discuss that instead. Crystal Palace, according to Sammy Mockbell of the Daily Mail, have made a £15 million offer to Liverpool for Ben Doak, who is currently on loan at Middlesbrough. John, I'll come to you. A lot of this will depend on what Arne Slot's long-term thoughts of Ben Doak are. If he thinks he's got a future, they'll probably just crack on, and because that money's not going to go anywhere. If they think, you know what, he isn't for us, they might take that £50 million, and go with it. It's an interesting one, this with Ben Doak, because he's clearly doing really well at Middlesbrough. Middlesbrough are keen on him. He's had a real good impact on their season. But now that is a pretty good offer for the young lads on the table there. Thoughts on Palace, Ben Doak, £15 million?
I'm not shocked we've got an offer for him. As you say, having a great season, really talented lad. I think the fees probably not what the club's looking for. I think if they were going to sell him, they'd probably want 20 sort of minimum, but there's obviously room to negotiate on that. I think it all comes to what you said in terms of what sort of future the manager sees for him. And I'm trying to think back to sort of pre-season, sort of how much he featured. He obviously did feature, and I think the fact that he went out on loan probably says something, rather, because obviously some lads just got sold in the summer, and you seem to get the impression that the manager just sort of said, they're not for me. Which would suggest that maybe the manager has more of a keen interest in him. And obviously sort of where he's been playing on the right wing as well in terms of like forward planning for Salah and stuff. So I don't know, I'm sort of pleased on the one hand, in the sense that I think it sort of validates that we've all sort of said he's a great player, and sort of that kind of thing, and obviously he stacked up this season in the Championship. But I also sort of don't think I want him sold, and I don't think we will, and I don't think we'll accept it.
I suppose, well, Jay, like, he's played 20 games at Middlesbrough, 5 assists, 2 goals in the Championship. This is a good loan. This is a loan that's working. Look at how many times Liverpool had to recall. Calvin Ramsey got recalled because he hasn't been able to kick a ball. Like, this is a good loan for Ben Doak. I suppose the question would be twofold. Has he got a future? Or was he loaned out to put him in the shop window? Or was he loaned out to get footy to come back? Because if he was loaned out to put in the shop window, someone's come with the bid that you put him in the shop window for. The flip side is, do you lose much by letting him stay for the last second half of the season? Will someone else pay £15 million in the summer for him? It's an interesting one, this, because we don't really know what Liverpool think of him, because he hasn't really been given a chance. He had a little bit of pre-season under Arne Slot, and then as soon as all the big guns came back, he was gone.
Yeah, I think instinctively agree with you. I don't think the fee is enough, because if you look, they got getting on for 30 million for Carvalho, who basically, he scored that goal against Newcastle in the last minute. He scored another goal against Bournemouth, where we won 9-0. I can't remember anything else Carvalho did really for Liverpool. Bit part performances. He goes on loan to, was it Hull?
Yeah.
Was it? Yeah. With Morton. Comes back. He does pre-season because we haven't got any strikers. And then it's, 25 to 30 million Brentford. And you're like, that works for everyone. If it was something like that, I think Doak, it's partly it's just that raw pace, that ability over 10 to 15 yards, just absolutely roast people, which we've all seen in fits. I was at that Darmstadt friendly. He came on for the last 10 minutes, and I was like, wow. Just I know that's a fairly it'll be some journeyman left back he was roasting there, but it's just some kid, and he's absolutely roasting this guy for 10 minutes. I just don't think it's enough money. I'd still like, I saw people being like, oh, well, he hasn't come through, has he? No, didn't do much. He had his chance in the Europa League. I'm thinking, he played like 6 games. I think he was 17. Is he 18 now or 19?
He is 19.
He's still a very young man, isn't he? And so I'd like him to have at least a little crack in a red shirt. If he could be one of we've just been talking about Chiesa. We don't know what's going to go on with Chiesa or whatever. If he's one of the 6 next season, then I'd like to see that. But if he isn't, I'd like us to try and at least rinse a bit more money out of whoever he goes to.
Yeah, I think I see your point. It's interesting, Jay, because Liverpool. Sorry, John. I think Liverpool will, if they sell him, they might, but it won't be £50 million. They might go for more. But it would be interesting. I would like to see him in an Arne Slot team, because everyone else has gotten better, so why not give it a go? But listen, Arne Slot was ruthless when he came in this summer. Like I thought Bobby Clark was destined to play 100 games for Liverpool, and it was like, nah, mate, you're going. Like, you're not going to play your off. See you later, ta-ra. And he's done that with he's been quite ruthless. There was talk, we might give Seth Vandenberg, nah, see you later. Good money, you're gone. There would be a number, I think, that will say to Liverpool, yeah, he's worth it. I just don't know what that number is. Maybe 25 million quid, and this is a different conversation, perhaps.
Yeah, it's one of those things, and obviously there might be some aspect of compensation, obviously, to Borough as well. If you were going to cut the loan short, that they'd have to cover and stuff, which, coming out of that 15 million wouldn't be enough. I do wonder slightly whether it's he's I hate using this word about footballers, but whether he's sort of a project footballer. Certainly, if you dig into all the sorts of stuff around sort of the academy and everything that's sort of gone on, there was a lot of good reporting on that in the summer, I think. Sort of coming out of the club and sort of the way that they've done at sort of developing players. I wonder whether this is one of those things where, like, you sort of hear it in hindsight that, like, sort of the academy directors come out and sort of say, we knew, say, Jones was going to be this player from 17, it was just a case of getting him to it, or we knew Trent or whatever. I wonder whether he's one of them lads where the reason he's been sent out on loan is when they've been looking at them all and sort of saying, we'll just get rid of them. The academy staff have sort of gone to the club and gone, no, listen, he's the one we need to keep, he's the one we need to ring fence, and yeah, you can sort of let some of the others go if you think the fee's right. I don't know, he's a very electric player. The sort of thing I hadn't thought about was what Jay mentioned about sort of his position in the squad. I was thinking sort of, Salah, 32, 33, it might be nice to have someone young there. I forgot about Chiesa, to be honest, but yeah, it says
a lot.
It says a lot, unfortunately.
Chiesa can play across the front three, though. I think I don't think he's a pure right winger. I mean, we're saying this, he's literally played like about an hour in a red shirt. So, sorry, carry on. Yeah,
I was just to go back to your point, Steve. It's in terms of the slot side of it, though. I think the interesting thing would be, and it's been weird because I think we've all gone on a bit of a journey with the manager in terms of we were all adamant it was 4-3-3 and all the rest of it, or 4-2-3-1, and it was that whole thing with Chris in the press conference and all that. But like, one of the big things that he did do at final was he played with 2 wingers. Yep. And I'm not saying we haven't seen that at Liverpool, and obviously Klopp adapted from Dortmund to Liverpool as well. But I do think it'd be interesting to sort of see what that looks like, as you say, in terms of 2 players for every position, and we have 2 wingers, so we have 4 wingers, 2 left, 2 right.
We'll never know what his idea, because he's got Mo Salah, so that's the difference, is that we don't know what his preference is, because his preference is Mo Salah, but you're not going to get another Mo Salah, so it kind of muddies the water. But it'll be interesting, like I say, we'll keep an eye on the Doak stuff as it stands. The bid's gone in. There's no news if Liverpool are going to have accepted, all that kind of stuff. But my guess would be that one will be knocked back, but there probably is a number. This isn't, he is not for sale at any price. I bet you there's probably a number, because worst case is you can put a buyback clause in it. You can say you can have him for 30, but we can buy him back for 40. If he's flying. So time will tell on that one. And also, what does he want? That's the other option. What does he fancy as well? Guys, we'll have to wrap that one up there. Thanks very much for joining us, to John and to Jay. We will be doing another one of these next Friday. So yeah, do stick around for the next edition of the Liverpool Transfer Podcast. Catch you all next time.